So, how does the world get richer? I mean, for decades, we've kind of been told one big story, right? Open up the borders, let the free market do its thing, and boom, everyone gets wealthier. But what if there's another way? Today, we're looking at a tale of two completely different ideas about progress, all based on some fascinating work by economist Edgar D. Tovar Garcia.
All right, let's just dive right in. We are living through this incredible worldwide experiment where the entire globe is being wired together into one single economic machine. So the huge question we're tackling today is, who actually wins when the whole world starts playing by the same set of rules?
Yeah, that's a massive question. And to even begin to answer it, we have to get our heads around this huge shift that's happening. Globalization isn't just about, buying and selling more stuff across borders. It's about fundamentally changing the economic playbook for the entire planet.
And this right here is the key idea. All the old barriers, we're talking tariffs, different currencies, rules about moving money and people around, they're all starting to fall. And what happens then? Well, the relationship between, say, Germany and Poland starts to look a whole lot more like the relationship between California and Arizona.
This distinction is absolutely crucial. Just think about how seamlessly goods and money flow between states within one country. Now, imagine taking that model and applying it to the whole world as all those old barriers just melt away. The entire globe starts to act like one single massive country. And honestly, that's where some of the trouble can begin.
And this brings us right to the heart of the conflict. Because when we actually look at what happens inside one of these giant, country-sized free trade zones, we find two very different things happening at the exact same time. You get growth, for sure, but you also get deep and sometimes painful inequality.
You know the classic argument for free trade? It's that if every region just specializes in what it does best, the total economic pie gets bigger. More wealth for everybody. Sounds great, right? But what Tovar Garcia's work points out is that we already have a perfect laboratory to test this idea, countries themselves. And, well, the results are a bit more complicated than the theory.
So let's look at Mexico back in 1990. On one side, you've got the Distrito Federal. Think of it as the powerful economic heart of the nation. On the other side, you've got the state of Chiapas. They use the same money, same laws. It's a perfect free trade environment. But just look at the gap between them. GDP per person, more than 3 times higher in the capital. People with more than a grade school education, almost 3 times higher. But that last number, that's the one that's truly staggering.
That's right, 6.5 times. People in the capital had access to 6.5 times more doctors than people in Chiapas. Now, this isn't just a boring statistic. This is a life and death difference in people's well-being, and it's happening inside the borders of the very same country.
So this is the really crucial point. The free market forces inside Mexico, they did create economic growth. The total pie got bigger, no question, but it didn't create economic development for everybody. The benefits got concentrated in one area while another was left far, far behind.
Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit. What does this concentration of growth actually look like on the ground? Well, it looks like cities that literally can't contain their own success.
It's a process, and it has a name, Metropolization. A successful city, one of these hubs of growth, it doesn't just grow up by building taller buildings. It grows out. It spills over its official lines on the map, basically absorbing smaller towns and creating this huge, sprawling metro area that's all one economy, but politically, it's a bunch of different pieces.
And this map just illustrates the idea perfectly. What you're looking at are towns in the state of Hidalgo that are now officially considered part of the Mexico City metropolitan area. The economic gravity of the city has literally erased the state line, pulling these communities into its orbit. This is that top-down model in action. But it's not the only story out there.
So, what if development doesn't have to come from a giant, sprawling metropolis? In another part of that exact same state, Hidalgo, a completely different kind of story took root. One that didn't come from the top down, but grew from the ground up.
Here, in a region known more for things like agriculture, a really unique kind of tourism started to bubble up. A whole corridor of water parks. And these are not corporate chains, not at all. They were built by and are run by the local people themselves.
And don't make the mistake of thinking local means small scale. Just look at these numbers from 2010. One park, El Tefe, had 300,000 visitors and invested over 21 million pesos back into its own facilities in a single year. I mean, this is a serious economic engine, all built from the ground up.
But here's what really makes this model different. When the local entrepreneurs were asked about their mission,
They didn't just give some corporate answer about profits. They talked about capturing resources for the benefit of the community. It's this incredible dual purpose. Yes, run a successful business, but also lift up the entire place you call home.
So, did it work? Well, the people who actually built this industry certainly seem to think so. When they were asked to rate their community's well-being on a scale of 1 to 10, their average perception more than doubled between the 1990s and 2010. That's not a GDP statistic, that's a measure of actual felt progress, a real improvement in the quality of their lives.
So, after seeing both of these stories, the sprawling city and the local water parks, we're left with a pretty clear choice between two profoundly different models for how we can build our future.
Let's just put them side by side. You've got the top-down global model. It's driven by big market forces, and its main goal is efficiency. But its great risk is that kind of extreme inequality we saw between Mexico City and Chiapas. Then you got the bottom-up local model. It's driven by local people and their community, and the goal is everybody's well-being. Its great benefit? The potential for prosperity that's actually shared.
So that's really the choice. As the world gets more and more interconnected, the question isn't if we're going to see growth. The question is, what kind of growth do we want? The kind that concentrates wealth in a few powerful hubs, or the kind that empowers communities to build their own futures? Where does real development, the kind that improves lives for the many, not just for the few, where does that really begin?